Whoa, guess what I'm gonna do, Nathan? Guess what I'm doing? I'm rocking the boat. Woo!
Now dig on this.
What's up?
Yeah, boy. Whoa, musical era.
Welcome to Classic Movie Banter. You know that podcast where me, that dude, Brenton, and that other dude over there, Nathan,
Guys and dolls.
we talk about films that are 20 years, and we tell you if those movies are still worth watching today, and if they're worth putting on a Thursday night with your mates, just sitting around, campfire in your living room.
Oh, tapping your feet, putting on a jolly good tune, Brenton, because we're back into the musicals.
Woohoo!
Get that Return to Oz shit out of here. Get it out of here, Brenton. We're back inside the musical world. How exciting.
Strap on those dance shoes and those Gene Kelly masks and let's get going, because today we're talking about the film adaptation of Guys and Dolls, which was released in 1955, and it was directed... Guess it was directed by Nathan. It was directed by Joseph L. Mankiewicz, who also directed that other film that we adored, that we reviewed earlier this year, which was All About Eve.
We only did it like a couple of weeks ago.
What a change of pace.
Oh my
we did
God.
like that movie, so if you want to check in with some of his other films, go back and check that episode out. But no, we're not here to talk about Eve today, even though it's all about her. We're here to talk about Guys and Fucking Dolls, starring Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra.
What a combo for a musical. Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra. Jesus.
Some would say that is a perfect combination. Others would say, what the fuck? But we're here to tell you what we think about all that.
Tomorrow's the anniversary, so, of the 65 years. So here we are, Brenton. We're finally watching Guys and Dolls. So can you please pitch for me what the movie is? Can you pitch me the movie?
So, Guys
and Dolls.
Guys and Dolls, sit down and listen in. Basically, we're in New York, you know what I mean?
Oh,
we're in
finally.
New York, the city that never sleeps.
We haven't been there enough.
We're hanging out with the mob, we're hanging out with the gangsters, we're hanging out with the Salvation Army, right? It's a time of busy horse racing and busy gambling and gangster-like activity.
Oh, yeah.
So basically, we follow Nathan Detroit, who is this guy that runs this underground crap game that floats, as they say, which means that it changes location all the time, so the feds can't catch them. And so he's changing it up, but he's come to the end of his line because he can no longer find a secure location that can house this crap game, this illegal gambling activity, and stay away from the feds. He finds this one such place that could be good, but he needs $1,000 to be able to pay the way to get this location down. And so he doesn't have the money because he's broke, because he hasn't been able to run this crap game for so long. And he turns to this gambling icon, as they say, who has just stopped by in town, as it were, named Sky Masterson. And Sky Masterson is known as Sky because he places sky-high bets, outrageous bets that he always seems to win. And Nathan Detroit bets Sky Masterson that he can't get a specific woman to come with him to Cuba, to Havana, that evening.
Yeah.
And Sky goes along with this, and Nathan Detroit picks the woman, who is Sarah Brown, who is a sergeant, I believe.
Yeah, not by law. Like, she didn't get that qualification. She's just in this corporation that happens to call her sergeant.
It is the clear opposite, some would say, of Sky Masterson and Nathan Detroit. She is. Hilarity ensues as Sky goes after this woman, and Nathan, on the other hand, has to get together and make sure that this crap game happens. Otherwise, it will be his neck. Whilst also trying to keep at bay his fiancée of 14 years, Miss Adelaide, as she pleads with him to turn the leaf over and lead a better life. And so, yeah, that's Guys and Dolls, really. That's the plot. That's what it's all about.
Story.
Will the crap game happen, or will love ensue?
Wow, Brenton, the stakes couldn't be higher.
That's Guys and Dolls.
Wow.
Nathan, were you familiar at all with this musical before we sat down and watched
I
this?
knew fuck all about it, like, really.
It's quite a famous show.
It is famous. I've known of it, yeah.
It was done in the 50s. I think it was 1950 to be exact. It opened on Broadway. And there's been so many revivals of this. There's been this film adaptation, but it's like, it's still being played today on the West End and Broadway. Like, productions just seem to come and go, and big stars.
It just won't die.
big stars want to play these characters all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's interesting in itself, and interesting enough in itself. Kind of setting you up because I think I might know your opinion on this. So that's why I'm building this up, of building the renown of this
How
musical.
revered this work of art is.
Do you know that? Yeah. Do you know this was selected as the winner for the 1950 Pulitzer Prize for drama?
It was one of the finalists, didn't actually get the prize.
Because of writer Abe Burrows' troubles with the House Un-American Activities Committee, the trustees of Columbia University vetoed the selection, and no Pulitzer. It won it, but no Pulitzer for drama was then awarded that year. So it was some political jumbo that happened in the background that meant that it didn't. It won it, but it didn't. It didn't get the selection.
That's interesting. That sounds like a good story.
Yeah, it does sound like a good story. But yeah, it was the Pulitzer Prize winner that year for drama. So all that being said, it's very well renowned. It's still been played throughout history. But we're not here to talk about the musical. We're here to talk about the film.
Yes.
Nathan, what do you think?
What a fucking drag.
Wow. Please elaborate.
Yeah, that's just
Tell us what you really think.
Good night, listeners. Have a good week. No, it's like, bless them for trying. like, well done. Like, Christ, this reeks effort. You know what I mean? If in school sometimes you get marked on like your actual project and then like you get a little effort mark as well. It's a little bit like that.
Totally.
Good on you. You're putting in effort. You're doing the right stuff. This isn't hurting anyone.
You're saying it gets a gold star for participation. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it gets a big old classic movie Banter participation award. So we'll print one out and send it off to, I don't know, the Marlon Brando estate or the Sinatra estate or whatever, whoever made this. I don't know, Brenton. This is like the most like musical. Like this movie encapsulates everything I dislike about the musical genre when I dislike it. You know what I mean?
In what way? What would you specify the things you dislike?
Just like, I don't want to go off. I like, this is a positive show, Brent.
No. I want you to go. I want you to go off.
Because I don't hate it. I truly don't hate this movie. It's just that thing where like the plot is just so unnecessarily convoluted. There's no actual like real drama or tension to any of it. The songs are all generic. None of them really stand out except for the bloody final song. That's the only one good song in it. Everyone doesn't act like a human being in this. They're all like fucking crazy. And it's this thing where like it has this serious subject matter of like these gambling criminals running this like underground game. But meanwhile, they're all like breaking into like song and dance, looking like the most like camp troupe you've ever seen in your life. It's the same issue I have with West Side Story, where like you can't take this shit seriously just because of the way the musical is handling the subject matter.
My experience with this film, I will say, is that I watched it when I was a kid, and I remember liking it when I was a kid, as when I was a young lad, as it were. And then watching it again was an interesting experience because I love the musical. So I fundamentally disagree that the songs aren't good because I think the songs are good. Interestingly enough, as well, there's a couple songs in this that were not in the musical, and a few of the songs from the musical, some of the most well-known songs from the musical were actually cut out of the film, which I thought was interesting as well.
Okay.
So there's a song that Frank Sinatra sings in this that's like another kind of love ballady type thing that's not in the musical, and I feel like that was the moment that the pacing might have dropped in the film. But that's a whole nother point. I fundamentally disagree about the music. I see what you're saying, that it has like it's got a mixed kind of tone in the sense of like we open up and it's very theatrical, like it's like in your face theatrical.
Christ.
You have like these ensemble guys that are just fucking running around. It's like, they're doing it's an interesting parallel to West Side Story because that movie opens with like, a gang war basically, but it's a dance.
We're all fucking clicking at each other. The opening scene especially, it reminds me of like what The Simpsons would parody, where it's way too over the top.
Yeah, I hear you, but I think that in this it is better though, because West Side Story, like I said, it's a gang war, whereas this it's like the representation of kind of life in New York, and it is like a musical comedy.
Were you laughing heaps in this, Brenton? In this musical comedy?
Oh, I chuckled at a few jokes and whatnot at a few points. But getting back to, so I think there's a tonal issue. I think you're right, because then you go to like Marlon Brando, who's like straight A's, like, method actor Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
And I feel like all the lead characters are acting kind of normal and like are characters in this film. I just feel like, what surrounds them sometimes. And it's in brief moments, and it's such like an in-your-face setup that I can see why you think that. But overall, I still kind of like this. What I would say is I really like this movie, but I don't like it as much as the musical, if that makes sense. I don't think it's the best.
Yeah, it's the same thing where like I feel like if I saw this on stage, I'd forgive it.
Yeah, but I even think that if you saw this on stage, like the opening on stage, it would be a bit too much. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I feel like the
probably,
musical is a bit more like subdued. Like you know what I mean? Like I think that those bits are so in your face that it kind of detracts a little bit. Getting back to what you said about the stakes as well, like I agree to a certain extent. I think I don't think the plot is convoluted. I think the plot's pretty straightforward. It's like here's the bet, and then the two guys like go off and try to do what they have their clear goals from the start, and they go off and some things change as the movie goes on. There's affiliations that change, obviously.
Do you just care about any of it? Do you believe for like 2 seconds it won't be a happy ending?
No, I think it will. Yeah, the whole time I'm going, oh, like this is a musical comedy. Like you can see that it's probably going to have a happy ending. But that doesn't mean I don't care about the characters, because I do. I really care about Sky and Sarah's relationship in the movie. I think it's really well established. There's a sequence in this that I always really enjoy watching. Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just
I want Nathan to Detroit to like turn the leaf over, and I want Adelaide to like get through to him eventually and get what she wants.
because they're all being idiots with each other. Like the communication issues there.
Are they though?
Like they'll be like engaged for like 14 years, and she's like, "Oh, is he gonna propose?" It's like, I don't care. like lady, if you've been waiting for 14 years, like clearly this is not the time and place to suddenly start bringing it up. You should have brought this like in year 4 or year 5, not for year 14. It's because you have these two relationships in juxtaposition, right? That's like the main framing of this musical. You got this like this yin and yang couple who it's like she's all business but he's all party, and then you got the other one where it's like she's all show business and he's a dirty gambler. You know what? I recently just watched Sister Act, like the original, and it's funny. You got the same kind of dynamic where like Whoopi
Right.
Goldberg is like bloody I'm all show business and like her boyfriend's a gangster, and even then maybe I'm getting Sister Act like PTSD, but I'm just like I can't do this. Like I'm like I don't believe this
Really?
dynamic for one fucking second. Like yeah.
Oh, see, I fundamentally disagree with that. Like, I think, I think that the relationships are kind of what saves it. I think that the performances are pretty good. I think Frank Sinatra leaves a little to be desired when it comes to like acting in some moments. Like, I feel like he's good with Adelaide and with Marlon Brando, but I feel like those actors might make him better. It's when he's with like his crew that I'm just kind of like, he's all right.
I don't think Frank Sinatra's having a good time at all. Like, every scene I see him in, I'm like, he kind of has this expression of like, why the fuck am I here? Same thing with Brando. Like, they both, I don't know, I got this impression where I'm watching both of them, like, they just do not want to be doing Guys and Dolls. Like, they both look visibly confused as they're, like, doing this performance.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I think like for Nathan Detroit especially, that character is not enjoying life. Like, he isn't happy at all. And like Sky's a bit. Oh, I disagree about Marlon Brando. Like, I think Marlon Brando, like, he's like the kind of cool, suave character, and he's always going through it and whatnot. Like, I don't get the impression that they're not enjoying it, even though if you go to the facts of what's going on, those two did not like each other at all, which was really interesting. Like on the set, that the director I think once said there was a quote from Frank Sinatra on the set. Frank Sinatra had coveted the role of Sky Masterson, and relations between him and Brando were really strained. Hollywood critic James Bacon quotes Sinatra telling director Joe Mankiewicz, "When Mumbles is through rehearsing, I'll come out."
Jesus.
Funnily enough as well, because we discussed this, I think, in our On the Waterfront episode, Frank Sinatra was in consideration for that part in On the Waterfront as well.
And Brando got both. He's just like, fuck you, Frank Sinatra. But also, in fairness, I don't know why Frank Sinatra's acting in this. It kind of reminds me when Elvis acts. It's like, you're a singer, mate. I like seeing Elvis movies, but at the same time, I'm like, you should be on stage, mate. Like, I don't want any of this.
Not necessarily. I think anyone, like, if they're right for the part, and I think Frank Sinatra is kind of right for this part in a way. But I think as well that, like, what's interesting about it as well is that, like, when this movie was announced, because, like, Guys and Dolls comes out, it wins the Tony, it wins all the fucking awards, it wins the Pulitzer Prize, whatever. Everyone wanted to be in it. Like, Marilyn Monroe wanted to be Adelaide and was like fighting for the role to be like Adelaide in this
That'd be
film
very
as
good
well. Like,
casting.
there was so many people that were like,
Yeah, but I'm looking at the ones they got in, and I'm like, I didn't buy any of it. It's funny, and it's really funny, because Sinatra is essentially just playing himself. When he was, like, surrounded by, like, the mobsters, I'm like, oh, this must be familiar for you, mate. Like,
totally. I think it works.
but in saying that, like, every time he kind of, like, busts out his sweet Sinatra tunes, I'm like, I kind of sink back into that warm, cozy feel, and I'm like, he doesn't sound like a gangster. He doesn't sound like you've been, like, on the run for years. Like, I don't buy any of this shit. Like, with those, like, he's too suave. He's way too suave for this world.
Oh, I don't know if he is that, like, he's suave in a sense, but, like, I don't know if it is necessarily Frank Sinatra on screen. Like, I still get the sense that he's Nathan Detroit, if that makes sense. Like, he's not, his voice even doesn't sound like it does, like, say, like, on his, like, his many records that he has. Like,
Oh, no. Nope. Disagree with that, mate. Every fucking morning I shower to Frank Sinatra. I don't know if you know this, but, like, I bloody listen to Frank every bloody day, Brenton. And I tell you what, when I was, like, watching this movie, I'm like, am I having a shower right now?
That's a funny quote. That's gonna be like a little social clip for the week.
Oh,
That's
no,
fucking
I don't
hilarious.
want that.
No, but like I disagree because like I'm a huge fan of Sinatra as well, and I think that there's a quality to his singing when he's singing as Frank. But like in this, I think there's a slight difference there, and I think like some of these tunes, like he's still acting, he's still like giving a performance. My issue with Frank Sinatra is that sometimes it's not necessarily that I don't buy it. I just don't think a lot of the time he's as experienced maybe on screen as I'd like him to be.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think that's you being kinder of saying what I'm saying. Like, oh, he just needs more experience. I'm like, get him the fuck out of here.
But I think it was a good casting decision because I think he is right for the part, if that makes sense.
I don't know.
Like he still captures the elements of that character that makes you like him and makes you want to root for him.
Yeah. I didn't care that much if he like got married by the end of the day. Like truly, like I didn't. I was like, if anything, if I had the two relationships, I cared more about Brando and Officer Chick. But even with Brando, my issue with him especially is that like I feel like Brando's the only one taking this shit seriously. Like every time he comes in, he kind of does the same kind of like Brando shtick where he's like, you gotta make a choice, you gotta forgive your sins, and he's like doing all that kind of shit. And I'm like, and it's like I don't think he knows it was a musical, especially when he starts singing Brenton. Why is Brando singing in this?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting one. Like,
do you like him singing in this?
I think he gets away with it. I think he's fine. I've heard worse. Let me tell you, fucking hell.
I feel like he gets away with it the same way like a kid gets away with stealing cookies, but they got like sugar on their lips. It's like,
Look, I think the moment that left me to be Desire, I think he sings the ballads really well. I think like for most of the film he gets away with it. But there's a song that character sings that is kind of one of the songs of the show. You know what I mean? Like it's one of the
fuck Luck Be a Lady. I didn't like it.
And but this is my point. Like it is like the climax of the story, that moment. Like, it all derives down to that one moment. And it's like, I feel that like his vocal technique or whatever it is, or, like the way, like he was performing it well in terms of like he was capturing what, like the conflict and what's going on in that number.
Yeah, if you look at like the narrative arc, like it's the payoff moment.
Yeah, but like musically, I think it left a lot to be desired because I wanted it to build, like, more like vocally, if that makes sense, as opposed to just, because he acted it well. Again, like he acted it well.
But like, it's weird that like he's the one, there's so many solo songs in this, probably the most solo numbers I've seen in a musical before. Like most of the songs are all solos. And in saying that, it's funny seeing Brando do his shtick, like singing with like a fucking spotlight on him. And you see Sinatra just kind of like whittling about in the background. It's like, you have fucking Frank Sinatra as like acting like a chorus member for like 3 of your songs. What are you doing? Like, get him to co-op or duet that shit. Like,
see, I don't care about that. So just because it's Frank doesn't make me go, oh, like he should have a bigger part in those songs, because I think like he does get his due, like he does get his numbers. He's like the second lead in this movie. Like it's not like he's not getting his moments. But I like that. I've always liked that about the musical, that like the characters kind of serve the story, and they in the numbers they will, like Nathan Detroit, if he's in the scene, he'll just like be in the ensemble and he'll be hanging out and he'll do some dancing and whatnot. Like it's that song is about Sky, you know what I mean? Like I'm not as like offended by that. Let's say I don't care.
I don't know. It's like
Whatever.
you hire Jack Nicholson for a movie and he's like mute the whole film. It's like, what are you doing? It's like, use him.
But that's not that. But my point is that's not the case at all, because like Frank Sinatra does get his due in this film. Like to me it would be more weird if they just kind of like changed it and like kind of like shoved Frank in there more. Like I'd just be like, what? You're clearly just doing it because you're...
No, it'd be funnier if like they were singing the solo songs and you can clearly see them like both fighting over it. Like one kind of shoves the other out of the frame and he starts singing, like they're just like scuffling for it. It'd be great.
Well, it's interesting that we're talking about the two men in this film and like we're kind of conflicted, I guess.
Yeah, because the women have no agency. So
oh, really?
They have no fucking agency. They are solely there to be partners for the men.
Come on, Nathan. Come on.
Come on.
Sarah Brown is my favorite character in this film. And you think that she has no agency at a point. There's an opening scene where it kind of establishes the relationship between her and Sky, and you're like, oh, fuck, here we go. And then it changes on a dime. Like, I think that she has probably some of the most agency out of any of the characters. I think maybe the argument could be maybe made for Adelaide, but at the same time, she still, like, is conflicted and still makes decisions and goes to her tune. Like, yes, like you said, oh, like, it's been 14 years. And I think that's kind of the point. There are relationships relationships that are like that someone sticks by someone for 14 years in the hopes that they'll change. But it's not a happy trail. You know what I mean? It's not like she's going, oh, well, like she's still fighting the whole time for what she wants.
Yeah, but again, like these women's, their core conflicts and their core, it's like the Bechdel test. All they talk about is like their partners. It's like all these women are invested in is like, well, I love Marlon Brando. Well, I would love Frank Sinatra. It's like, that's their arc. The rest of the Salvation Army is it's just kind of salad dressing essentially. Like it's just there to it's there to bring the two worlds together.
Yeah, yes and no, because again, like I like Sarah because like not only is like her like core, like let's say goals in the movie in terms of what's being established is like, yes, like Sky Masterson isn't really on the radar and then like their relationship develops or whatever. But like her whole goal the whole time is the Salvation Army and like saving society and saving people. Like, so it's not centered around Sky.
Which also, by the way, makes her kind of unlikable. Like watching that Salvation Army, I'm like, I don't need to hear any of this bullshit. Like I get enough of it on the streets.
But then isn't that the point? Because yeah, like I get that as well, and I think that's purposefully done because you go, oh god, like, you know, what a prude as they call her in this movie.
It's just so cliche. Like seeing like an uptight character like learning to get loose. Like I've seen it done to death in better projects. Like I got nothing new out of her arc.
Does she learn? Does she learn?
Yeah, mate. We on that date we see her get as loose as one can get. So like,
I don't know if that's classes as learning though.
Oh mate, she goes through some changes.
No, she does. And I like that about it as well.
You know what I mean? Like that arc of like uptight to loose, I've seen done much better elsewhere. And like,
but it's not like that. It's not okay. It's not Grease. It's not Sandy in Grease, where at the end of it she comes out and is like, "Fuck my whole character. I'm just gonna like
Grease
change
is
my
very
whole
guilty of
persona
it.
and like everything about myself for this one guy." It's not that. It's like
it's Grease 2 instead.
Her character is still intact by the end of it's great. Where's Michelle Pfeiffer? No. But her character is still intact by the end of this film, and it's not her that necessarily changes in the dynamic, I would say.
Yeah, that's all. Let's talk about some non-spoiler stuff. You know, I'll sing some praise because this. Oh, I kind of want to insult the movie more. I'll go back and forth.
No, you praise, I'll insult.
I like that. All right,
let's
praise. Outstanding costume design. I was gobsmacked at how good that was.
Holy shit. The aesthetic of this thing is fantastic.
I completely agree. I think the set design's pretty poor because it literally looks like a musical. Like,
yeah. That's one of my critiques, but we'll
get
and
it's
there.
funny because like it kind of I get it, like especially in the 50s, like they kind of just did that to make musicals like the films make them feel more like musicals. But like when I look at the background of New York and I'm like,
oh man, that's the worst sinner, so to speak, in this film full of sin. Just on the back of that production design, yeah, because you have moments like there's scenes that look really good, like the sets.
Mostly when we're indoors, like yeah,
some of the interiors. One of the outdoor settings I would say is excellent as well. We'll get into that in spoilers. It involves like a bell tower and like you know I enjoyed that. But yeah, when we get to Times Square, it's such a mixed match. Like that Times Square like backdrop is just like so shit. But then later on in the movie, we get another Times Square backdrop that looks.
It's like, what are you doing? Like, who's making these decisions? Like, and you know, it doesn't ruin the movie per se, but like,
no, but
it is very, very noted. Another compliment, Brenton. I really liked how in the first act there were barely any songs, which you know, I don't know if it says that much for a musical. I'm like, oh, this is actually giving story attention. Like, the plot is still bare bones thin.
I disagrry, but let's keep going.
I was like, oh, there's not many songs. This is good. But then the second half, Brenton, oh boy, does it just bucket songs like nothing else.
Yeah,
it's very imbalanced.
Mate, we're yin and yanging. We're yin and yanging here because like that leads on to my critique is that sometimes the pacing issues is specifically
because it moves fast in the first act.
Yeah, because musicals are adapted from the stage. There's 2 acts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, and it's always the point when you get to like the interval, as it would be in the musical, that there's pacing issues, and there's the added song in there as well with the Nathan Detroit, the Adelaide song, which I think that like that just plummeted the pace at a point. And we just needed to get to the Havana
the number
stuff.
of times characters sing about being in love with this, it's like 3/4 of the subject matter for each song.
Yeah, to be fair, that's what it's about. It's about guys and dolls.
No, but,
like,
I know that. But it's
that's what it's about. But I get your point as well. We didn't need like upbeat songs removed and replaced with more ballads. Is my point. It's like that's where the pacing kind of plummets, and I think it causes issues.
Exactly.
It's like if there'd just been like that song, I think, removed, it would have done a world of good.
Yeah, there's definitely songs you could have chopped out. And here's another thing, another insult. I think with the stories for this musical, we watched these two couples kind of explore the love with this backdrop of like the Salvation Army and like this gangster, she's like that angelic side, he's like the devil side. We watch them come together. I don't feel like the themes were that properly explored to their fullest extent.
I would agree, and this is probably my biggest critique of the film.
I don't think it's saying anything.
When you're adapting something, like you can see that it's there. that it's all kind of there, like thematically what it's trying to go for. And it's funny that you spoke about female agency before, because I don't necessarily agree it's the agency, but there's a scene that is in the musical that is literally my favorite scene of like the show.
Yeah.
It like makes me love the show, and it's the scene between the two female characters towards the end of the story.
Do they even talk together in this movie? Like,
that's what I mean. They don't interact. They don't talk, and like and it's a scene that kind of brings the whole premise, the whole thing together, and it really kind of hits you. And it's a funny scene. It's a sweet scene, but it hits home. Like, and I feel like it was just sorely missing from this movie. And I was just going, why did we add this other thing? You know, and these other things, I should say, when like that's what I was just like dying for, to bring everything together under the umbrella of what the themes of what this is about, so that it kind of hit home. And yes, it's a musical comedy, but it's still got structure. It's still got meat on the.
I don't think so. I vehemently disagree with that, because I didn't learn anything from this.
But that's what I'm saying.
You're saying the musical does, but the film doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that like you can see the music, like the movie, where it's kind of taking all these ideas, and it's got all the ideas, but like you said, it doesn't take them to the full extent that they could be explored.
It's just like, it's called Guys and Dolls. Like, are you trying to have a thesis on like how men and women interact? Because I'm not really getting that from this. Like, what the fuck are you trying to say? Like, this is how you run an underground gambling game, or like, you know, anyone can have their sins forgiven. Like, I'm trying to think of like what this message is, or even what it's trying to explore, but every time it kind of like starts to bubble up a theme, it kind of abandons it, especially with the two different storylines. Like, Marlon pursuing his chick and Frank pursuing his chick are just so radically different in what they're trying to do. Like, when it ties together, I'm like, this is it. Like,
yeah, I think the third act left a lot to be desired, to like bring these ideas together into a way that was cohesive and just hit home. Like, you know, it was just simple. It just like you needed a few tweaks.
Because it sounds like it's trying to do redemption arcs, but I don't think it really hits the nail there.
No, it doesn't. And I feel like, to me, if I was going to say like what happened with this film, I think it was rushed in a way. I think it was rushed, and like probably the edit was rushed as well. And there's just, you know what I mean? Like, and we know that this director can do good stuff, because we see All About Eve.
All About Eve. He knows how to handle these flawed characters, and yet this is Guys and Dolls. I'm like, this is it. Like, I kind of wish I did see the musical over this, because I'm just like, I'm looking at this film and I'm like, you're just a generic musical in my opinion. That's all I got. And coming in like properly blind, like that's it.
You sound so upset.
You know what? Because like this, like you said before, it's revered. This shit like got awards, and here I am watching fucking Guys and Dolls, hoping, okay, great, give me a presentation of guys and dolls. Like, they're not even called women; they're called dolls. What does this say about the female gender? You know, being a doll. And like every fucking sentence, Christ. Okay, you want to drink for this movie? Drink every time they say the word doll, because good lord, they're addicted to it. And every time they talk about a doll and they make these great statements about dolls, it's generic as fuck. They say nothing interesting about the female gender. It's like, oh, to get a doll, you gotta do this. It's like, shut up, Frank Sinatra. Go back to singing excellent albums. Like, I don't want to hear this. I'm upset now, Brenton. Let's rate this.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I challenged you so much that I just like caused that to like pour out of you, because I think it's such a shame, because I think like you'd like the musical. I genuinely think you'd like it.
I don't know. I still need to. You know what? Every musical needs to have a lot of bangers. If I'm gonna love that musical, it needs to be filled with bangers.
Oh, mate, that's got some, like, I swear to God, like, I love the music of Guys and Dolls.
Brendan's like, I'll perform it here now.
Yeah, let's go. Scene one. No, no, I would say, Nathan, you might have convinced me, because I think the whole issue with this is that it's a bad adaptation, is what I'd say about it. It's like, it's all right. It's okay. It is okay in terms of like covering the plot of what happens, but we don't get the meat on the bone, so to speak. So I'm going to rate it right now, Nathan. I'm going to agree with you and say that it's a thumbs down, and you're better off. You are better off, even though it's got good moments, and I like it enough. Like you said, like, I don't hate it. I actually quite like it. You know, I quite like it, but it's just not as, it doesn't hit home as, you're better off just going to see a really good production of the musical, because hey, they pop up every few years. So go and see that. Go and see Ewan McGregor in the 2005 West End adaptation.
Ewan McGregor did one?
Yeah, he played Sky Masterson.
No, he didn't.
Go see.
Oh, he did.
He did. Yeah, he did. He did. I'm not even kidding. God. Go see bloody Nathan Lane as Nathan Detroit in the old Broadway revival.
Oh,
like, it's done like
such better casting.
Everyone wants to play these roles. You know what I mean? Like, and everyone loves it. So I think that like seeing Nathan have this visceral response to it. Like, I'm afraid that people will watch this and think that is the show when it's not. So I think go watch the musical.
We're talking about the film. So and you know what? I should have been buttered up, because there's literally a song in this musical where they sang "We Love Nathan." So like, I'm sitting there on my couch going, "Guys and Dolls, you bloody tease! Look at you bribing me with this serenade song."
Yeah, you were saying that there's no bangers in it, and it's like the banger of all bangers.
I know, but that's inherent bias if there's ever any bias. nice. Like, I was downloading the song on iTunes because I'm like, this is for me now. But like, outside that, I'm like, despite the film is literally bribing me, thumbs down. Go see a musical.
Sounds good.
You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh. I'm not going to talk about the opening yet because we'll talk about that later because I really want to talk about the opening.
We got a good still from it.
We'll talk about it later on.
Okay, let's talk about the premise because I think where a lot of issues stem. I can't believe the audacity that he makes a bet to ask a girl out to Cuba. Like, who is this guy?
I like the assumption as well when Nathan says basically like, hey, well, you say that you're like, this great guy, but like, what guy goes to Havana without a girl? And it's like, normal people.
and that's the thing that like causes him to make the bet. It's like, how confident is he that this shit works? Like, even if I was Marlon Brando, and he's a confident, good-looking bloke, but even if I was him, I'd be like, really, Havana? Why not at least like the same nation? Go say like Florida or something. like does she have a passport ready to go? Like, and that's the thing, it works.
Yeah, it does work.
But here's the thing, like, can we talk about the logistics of this? Because like, okay, so he grabs her at noon, right? They do the whole date in Cuba, which we'll get into, but then they do it. They get in the last plane, in the biggest air quotes, out of Cuba, and they're still back on the same night.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing where Nathan's gonna do some research. I'm gonna look up the fucking flight times right now from like bloody New York to Cuba.
Actually,
no, you can't because the flights are banned. Remember, America doesn't like you flying direct to Cuba? This would have been like pre-missile crisis, so like...
Sure, but like we don't have to look up the exact flights, but let's just look at the time.
Yeah.
New York to Cuba, how long? This is the part of the show where Brenton Googles shit.
Because sure, let's say he grabs her at noon. It's probably an hour to get to the airport.
Whoa, Nathan, it's got you.
How long's the flight?
It's 3 hours.
Okay, 3. So it's like an Australia-New Zealand flight. All right.
So he says he picks her up at noon.
So let's say hour to the airport. Let's say they got a private jet or something. So maybe hour and a half to get in the plane, right? It's 1:30. They fly.
Yep.
4:30 they land in Cuba. Great. They go out, get some dins, get in a little fight, sing about some love, and then actually maybe this could work. Because say the last flight's maybe at 10 p.m. It could line up.
Yeah, maybe, but like I don't buy that that's the flight they catch. They look like they're a lot later than like 10 p.m. That's where it gets tricky. And by the time they're back in New York, like a plane that leaves at 10 p.m. lands at around like just after
getting back into the city into Manhattan would probably be 2 a.m. by that point.
Yeah, and by that point they're like it's dawn. So like what flight did they catch? Because I think it's trying to make it. I don't know what the flights were like back then.
This is also using like 2020 like times of like getting through a plane. Like, back then they didn't have airport security. It was like pre 9/11, but like still it wouldn't have been.
And also like different like better technology, better planes, faster planes as well. Like who knows?
So yeah, who knows?
So maybe it does add up then, because even if they got there at 5 p.m., maybe they spent like 4 hours there. They got back on a plane, let's say at 10 p.m., like you said, and then that's like 5-hour flight, let's say, and then they arrive at 3 a.m. and they walk the streets for 2 hours and then it's dawn.
Maybe. Like, it could
maybe
work.
Logistically it could make sense.
Here's the thing, like it's that same thing where I'm like, if I was taken on a date to Cuba, right? It'd be a little bit different from Australia. But let's say the equivalent. Okay, for us in Australia, it's like New Zealand because that's 3 hours away. So say I met a girl, Brent, and we love at first sight, and she's like, let's have dinner in like Wellington, and I'm like, I beg your pardon. And she's like, here's the tickets, grab your passport, I'll see you at noon. I'm like, great. If I was to go to Wellington for dinner, I wouldn't just want to go back the same night, right? Like, you want to stay there a little bit longer if you've made the effort.
That's right. Yeah. But my understanding, because they do discuss that, she's like, well, let's just stay the night.
Yeah.
Like
she's like, we're in Cuba.
Like, let's just
like, might as well enjoy it.
Like, let's just stay the night. And he's like, no, I've taken advantage of you. I'm taking you back. You've got, the Salvation Army is important to you. Like, you'll regret it. I'll take you back. Like, that's the discussion that's had. So it does make sense logistically, but I get your point that like, man, it just must be though, because like we're not experienced high rollers as well. Like
we're not used to flexing our
flexing our fucking cash. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
holy
like, well
shit.
done.
But also like, here's a logistic thing. If we're so stuck on this Cuba Havana thing, which is hilarious.
It's a big point
I love
in the
that we're
movie.
talking about this because why is he going to Havana for one night? Is it literally just have dinner at his favorite
Probably.
restaurant?
Well, that's the bet he makes.
I'm flying out to Havana. And then was he actually going to come back to New York, or where was he going? Because I think he's from Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's his pad.
I honestly don't know, Brenton. Like, I'm glad that we go there. I like that the musical went that direction. It's like, because I didn't think we were. When he said it at the start of the movie, I'm like, are we actually going to go to Cuba? I didn't believe him. I'm like, nah, he's just saying that. Lo and behold, we go to fucking Cuba.
And, well, let's talk about that, because that's probably my favorite, like, in the musical. And
that's my favorite,
that's
too.
probably, like, my favorite segment.
Easily.
Yeah, like,
Easy the highlight of the Havana musical. I thought the choreography, especially in that bar, was outstanding.
hell yeah.
It reminded me a lot of the high school ballroom scene from West Side Story.
Yeah.
Where you see like the Latin side come out and they're all it's such a weird dance where like the guy is like bent over halfway to
Yeah.
like the woman's waist and they're like doing their little tango waltz. Like
Fucking cool,
Oh.
though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's... And like, I love, like, when Brando just, like, gets into
Yeah.
it at a point. Like, there's a point where that girl, like, grabs his cigarette and then he's just up and he just, like, gets into it. And you're like, damn,
the
Marlon.
music's so good.
Damn,
I'm
Marlon.
all for it. I love it as well because you see like Salvation Chick gets so cooked. Like she's like, oh, what's Bacardi? And he's like, oh, it's got some alcohol in it. And she's like, and it's like, what a fucking idiot.
One of my favorite lines is, this is what... They should use this so that, like, to encourage kids to drink milk.
Jesus.
And Marlon's just like, okay.
It's like, lady, do not let her near a child. It's like, Christ, can you imagine that upbringing? It's like, have your Bacardi, little one. Like, oh.
I love the song as well. Like, it's getting back to the kind of musical stuff, like in that Havana bit, like, yeah, the bar stuff's good. We get into the fight, which we'll talk about. The song I love is like in that courtyard when she sings If I Were a Bell. Like, I just love that song. I always love that
I was
song.
sleeping through it.
Oh, dude, come on. It's
so
such
generic.
a great song.
Yeah, all right, you want to be a fucking bell? Go start ringing, lady. Go for it. Also, she's drunk. It's like, I don't want these like drunk 2 a.m. songs. It's like, also so funny because you can see Brando like clearly sobered up, but she's still like completely off her face.
Can we like next time we have a gentleman's night or
Oh, yeah.
something? Can we go to Brisbane? We'll go to the Valley,
Yeah.
you know, and we'll hit like 3 a.m. or whatever it is, and like the clubs close or whatever. And Nathan, we're gonna go find like a bell tower that's gonna ring, and you're gonna sing that song and just like fucking go because you would. I know
I
you
would definitely.
And then tell me it's not a good song at that point.
Look at that one. It rings. Oh. I'll be like Liza Minnelli from Cabaret. I'll just be like bloody screaming at the bell just as a train comes past. So.
But let's talk about the fight scene in the
Holy
Havana nightclub.
shit!
It escalates
Holy
quickly,
shit,
right?
This escalates. Like, and because first it kind of just like a Western saloon bar fight where like everyone's fighting
Yeah,
everyone
man.
in that sense. But Jesus, she punches so many people directly in the face.
Well, she
like,
starts it. That's what's so crazy about it. Is
Yeah.
that like that one girl, she just grabs and she just clocks her like across the
But
face.
they get like superhuman strength. Like she punches someone and they fucking fly across the room. I'm
Oh.
like, lady,
Dude,
what have you been lifting?
I think like one of my favorite like little stunt sections like in any film ever happens in this movie when I think it's Marlon Brando. He pushes this lady like falls or whatever and she gets punched or something and she goes on this like sliding like computer stool basically like across and then
Yeah.
like she slides onto the stage like still seated. Like that was crazy. I paused the film and like was just like what the fuck?
It's great. And like that's like when I love the movie the most. I'm like, bring it on. I'm all for this violence. And it's so funny because that's the most violent thing. Despite a movie that's literally chock full of gangsters throughout most of it, that's the most violent scene when we're in Cuba.
Yeah, there's like threats of violence, but like that is like you said, and it's funny that she starts it. It's great.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, I love it. And it's just funny because like they kind of do that and then like the movie never acknowledges again. Like, oh, that was fucking weird. Like she forgets that she blacked out. She's like, oh, why do I feel so sore? And Brando's like, ooh. Like,
Yeah, you started like a riot that I had to like get you fucking out of there.
oh, Jesus. That was my most beloved moment, Brenton. Do you want to know what one of my most hated moments in this movie?
Go for it, buddy. Tell me.
Brenton, Cats the Musical is in this movie.
Oh gosh, I forgot about
I was like, the second I saw it, and like, there's all fucking cat ears come up over the brick wall. I'm like, oh no. I'm just going like, why is Cats in this movie? Like, jeez. But do you reckon because it came out before the musical, that's where like Andrew Lloyd Webber got the inspiration?
Perhaps. No, I always think that Andrew Lloyd Webber got the inspiration from him. Like, someone said to him, oh, have you, like, I love your 70 cats in your house, Andrew. Have you ever read T.S. Eliot's Book of Poems? And he was like, no. But he said, but I've been writing these songs with my cats and the piano. It's been lots of fun.
Oh, jeez.
Can you imagine him just writing the score for that show and they're like, there's fucking cats like walking over his hands as he's trying to play the piano and he's like, and he's just there being like, jellicle, some for jellicle cats. Yes, Tommy, keep
Christ.
catting
I
about.
really don't want to.
Why
I
did
really don't
you
want to,
brought
but-
it up anyway?
Because it's in the movie. Because it adds nothing to it, by the way. They're just like prancing about his cats for like a whole fucking 3 minutes. And I'm like, why is this here? You could easily cut this out.
I would say the better nightclub song in this film that is featured in this movie is the second one, which is like Take Back Your Mink and whatnot, like when they do that number later on in the
I
movie.
don't even remember it.
No, I'd say that's better because it's actually like, you know, kind of relevant to like what's going on in the plot, like, you know, with Adelaide and whatnot. Actually, let's talk about Adelaide. Let's talk about her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because there's a lot going on with her. First up, what the fuck is wrong with her, Brenton? Like, why would she lie to her mother? Like,
Oh,
saying
that's
that.
how good is that story? How
Oh my
funny
God.
is that story? And she's just like, yeah,
I'd be lying if I said I didn't laugh.
we've got 5 kids. And then I love that at first, like he was like, because Nathan just kind of goes along with it at first. And then there's a point where it's like, holy shit.
Yeah, he realizes the web, and it's, you know what? I think that scene is extremely well written and performed.
I agree.
Like the way it's like slowly revealed, and like especially like what Frank Sinatra does. He's just like, oh, okay. He's just like, all right, well, let's go along with this.
And then I like how he's like, well, wait. She's like, oh, wait, there's more. And he's like, wait, don't tell me we've got like an Adelaide Junior as well. And she's like, we do. And then he's like, how many kids in total? 5. And he's like, oh no.
She's like, I like big families, and I like as well. Like they're both kind of celebrating it. He's like, oh, we have a boy. Like,
Yeah.
he's like,
I
hey.
know, it's such like a sweet moment. Like in a way, you're just kind of like, this is so fucked up, but like
It's very wholesome.
It's kind of
Like-
funny that they're like sharing it, and she's just like, yeah, and you're such a good dad, and he's like, oh, thanks, babe. Like,
That's great. They're just all like getting around each other, and like he's like, oh fuck, all right. So like, but also, how did she lie to her mother for like that long? Like, how did okay? She told her mother they were married and she had grandchildren.
what's funny about her is that she's always like, she wants this family life, but it's so funny that she's always about Nathan, but like she hasn't seen her own family in presumably 14 years as well, because she only writes to her mum.
Exactly.
So it's a bit hypocritical, but I like that about the character as well. I like that she's just like,
I really do like Adelaide though. She reminds me. This is just between you and me, Brenton, but she reminds me a lot of Lena Lamont from Singing in the Rain.
look, I think there is some inspiration taken there. She's not. It's like a nice Lena. Like Lena's very vindictive in that film and whatnot. Like,
Yeah. But especially the voice.
especially like in the musical, because like in the Singing in the Rain musical adaptation, they basically gave her a very similar song to what Adelaide has in this film, which is the Adelaide's Lament, which is when she's like, I've got the cold because basically of the stress of like.
That's so fucking stupid. I hated that, Brenton.
It's a great song.
Every time a character's about to get married, they get the fucking cold. I'm like, how is this a thing?
I like that he sneezes at the end as like the joke. Like,
jeez.
and she's like, oh, that means he says yes. And everyone else is like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
Like, she gets a cold that she's not married. I'm like, this is just bullshit, Brenton. Like, I don't know. After a year of Corona, I'm just looking at this going, this is fake news. I don't want this. So like, oh.
Speaking of the wedding scene, let's talk about that quickly, because I want to talk about the real MVP of the film, which is Nicely Johnson, who sings "Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat."
Oh,
and
the one actual banger in this movie.
oh mate, I love this guy so much. Like I always loved that character, and I like that he's the one that actually, like, everyone else is there because they've got the marker on them, and like in that last scene with the meeting at the Salvation Army, and he's just like genuinely like, no, like I had a dream, and like fucking like I need to like fix up my life, and then he sings this song, and everyone's just like, all right, what the fuck, and then like it's this big number. Well, it's not like a huge number, it's a big number, and they're all like singing along and whatnot.
Everyone's like awkwardly like swaying in the background like a fucking junior school chorus.
And then it kind of ends and it just goes back to reality, and he just kind of grabs his hat calmly and sits down. And then in the next scene, in the wedding scene, we see him and he's just fully, he's now like he's a member. He's in the Salvation Army uniform. He's standing there all smug
fully
and happy.
redeemed. I think he's the one that says my favorite line, which was, I was a bad guy and a bad gambler.
No.
So now I want to be a good guy and a good gambler? Or is that the friend?
That's the other guy. Yeah. But that's such a good line.
They're both great. Every time like they're rocking up to say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, these two, like they're good side characters.
I love their opening song too, when they like do like the 3-part harmony overlapping during like when they introduce like the gambling aspect at the very start.
Is that when they all briefly like look at the screen and break the fourth wall?
Yeah.
I was like, because watching this home on the couch, they were like, oh, here's a chump sitting watching his TV, and they're all looking at you, and I'm like, do they know me? Like,
I love that musical moment. I got the horse right here. His name is Paul Revere, and they like have the 3 different horses. Like it's a great song. It's good. How's that wedding though? That like the whole of New York seems to like stop
Christ, the double wedding.
for like and like take over Times Square. And I love how they acknowledge it. Like it's so fucking funny how like the head, like the father is just like, now we've got to be fucking quick because we're stopping the traffic. So like,
and they're like, oh, okay, sure. Like
that made me laugh.
Yeah, sure. You know what? I was just kind of happy that the wedding was there because it meant the film was over. I was just like, great, kiss, like, you know. I think it went a little bit long for what the scene should have been.
Yeah, it's a shame because again, the movie is missing the scenes that I think would have the most impact. And I don't know what it would be, but like we needed to get rid of some fat around the middle of it, or just before like the halftime, I guess you could say. And we needed to have like the scene between where like Sky and Sarah actually make up, and she like goes to him, and like they have that interaction, because we kind of miss it. We miss like the fulfillment of their relationship. We just see them get married at the end. And the same with Nathan and Adelaide. What the fuck? Like we never like find out
it just happens.
It just happens.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, okay. I feel like the movie's like, oh, we've done enough.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I mean.
let's
It
just
feels
get them
like
married
rushed.
now.
It's like, fuck, like the movie's too long. We fucked up. Like let's just cut to the end.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. Like, I was fuming by the time we got that gambling scene at the end. I have so many fucking issues with that final gambling scene. Let's go through them, Brenton.
Get into it.
Number
Nathan.
one, that is like the cleanest and most colorful sewer I have ever seen in my life.
I kind of like it though. I kind of like it so colorful. Like it's a good looking set, but you're right.
It's so
As
stupid.
a sewer, it just looks ridiculous.
Yeah, and the way that it's like this got this big open space that's perfect for like a dance scene. I'm like, what's this design?
I tell you what it looks like. It looks like in Iron Man 1. You know, like the arc reactor thing, like the big thing.
It does a bit, doesn't it?
It looks like that, and like Jeff Bridges should be in there being like, Tony Stark built this with a box of scraps.
And the gangsters all kind of shrugging like their shoulders, like I don't know
Well,
what's going on.
I'm not Tony Stark. I'm Sky Masterson, and I got your mucker.
Oh no. What the fuck are they all going on about with their markers? The whole bloody movie they're on about it.
The markers are like, like your word. Like it's a piece of paper that you like put.
Oh, fuck off. Don't talk
No,
to me
but
about
you have to be
oh.
held accountable to it because like there's that one gangster guy. I always forget his name. Is he named after the
What's
horse?
the phrase? No honor among thieves? Like, don't go off about honor like Marlon Brando.
No, but they do, man. They do. Speaking of honor,
Jeez.
how fucking I always hate this guy. That fucking gangster that
Oh,
like
the
has
cop?
that has the blank dice. No, the guy that like takes all of Nathan's fucking
yeah,
profit.
fuck him. By the way, there is no scenario that they'd ever let him like just roll his own dice. I'm like, no.
He has his gun, like he's the one in there threatening violence, and everyone's just like, well, okay. And it's like, hang on a second, you outnumber him like 40-1.
Yes. It's like also like I remember where the dots are. There is no scenario in real life where that would ever fly.
Yeah,
Gangster or no gangster. It's like remember where the fucking dots are. I'm like,
Such horseshit.
yeah, such horseshit. And they lose all the money from it. I'm like, you fucking idiot.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but well, actually, no, you don't know. But I think in the musical, like, you know how Nathan's like, I'm going to bet again now that, like, Sky's given me this 1,000 or whatever and get it back.
Yeah,
I think he does get most of it back.
I didn't care if he lost the money or not. I'm like, I'll just get to the fucking wedding. Because also, that's the kind of stakes. Like, I feel like the romance stakes are higher than, like, oh, is he going to have money stakes?
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
I think the stakes in that scene is more like, yeah, obviously the Sarah, like, Sky has to get these people to, like, get to that fucking, like, mission so he can get it back. But, like, it doesn't matter in the end because the movie cut the scene where, like, he goes through and is like, fucking, hey, I did it for you and, like, I don't give a shit about that. I want to be with you. Like, we just don't get that scene.
No, we don't.
Nathan, I'm glad I gave this a thumbs down. It's called Guys and Dolls, and we don't get like the redeeming like scenes between like the two relationships of like where the whole movie's headed. What the fuck?
Oh, what are you doing? Oh, just what they should have done is just bring back the cast of All About Eve.
Sure.
And just like insert it into here, bloody spoilers for All About Eve, but they should have just had, Eve rock up. She's been booted out of the theater industry. She's like, maybe I'll be in the underground gambling scene.
Sure, I'm down for that. I'm absolutely down for that. Hey Nathan, we'd better get kicking because we've had a lot to say about this movie. And
We've had a lot to say. Let's do some special segments. Special segment. Ooh, so special.
I will say that I needed to bring this up. Is this movie worth the remake, do you think?
Well, now that we've kind of concluded this is a bad adaptation, you know what? I will give you the benefit of the doubt and assume the musical's great.
Well, lucky you because there's a remake in the works, Nathan.
A cinema remake?
Yeah, because last year, the rights were, again, acquired once more. So originally, I think there was a remake in the works around 2013. I think, quote me if I'm wrong, listeners, let us know. But I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt was attached to it and Channing Tatum potentially were attached to it as well.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah, it was but
that sounds just as incongruous as
I know.
Brando and Sinatra.
For sure. But I think that kind of went down the toilet. And so the rights got passed to, let me see if I can find the studio. For that 2013 musical remake, it was 20th Century Fox had the film rights at that stage and they were planning the remake. Yeah. And then in last year, about halfway through last year, TriStar Pictures acquired the remake rights and they're working on it at the moment. So
okay.
That is kind of exciting. And I agree.
It kind of answers the question. To be honest with you, I don't know if this subject matter is that relevant in 2020.
Yeah, but I think it could be good. I think they could do it good.
I don't know. It's also I don't know, the whole painting of the doll. It's I don't know, unless you're trying to be meta about it. I don't know if it's that relevant like now, you know? Like
Maybe. I'd give them the
it could
shot.
be funnier. If they gave the script a huge overhaul and kept the bare bones of the plot, then maybe. But like, I honestly don't. I'm not holding out for it. I'm not going to be there in cinemas when it comes out.
I will be. I'll be there with my bell
Yeah,
on.
so it's the same guy who saw Cats in cinemas, ladies and gentlemen. So
Hey man,
take that with a grain
that
of
was
salt.
fucking wild. That was a wild time, and I will never forget it. That is by far, like, I was thinking about this the other day, actually. That is the worst movie I've ever seen. That is hands down the worst movie I've ever seen. And
There you go.
it was mate, you gotta just watch some scenes. I keep sending you some scenes from it just to watch it.
I still not what that.
You just gotta do it. Like, just watch 2 minutes, and you'll understand where I'm coming from.
No, I
It's
just can't.
fucking crazy. Anyway, why are we talking about cats, by the way? Why the
don't
fuck
know.
did you bring
It's-
this up?
God damn it. Because the scenes in the movie. I'm so sorry. Blame bloody All About Eve director. Like, oh. But okay, let's say we were to remake it, Brenton. So let's say, you know, they listen to this podcast, the producers like, let's bring Nathan and Brenton on board. They know some things. Who would we cast?
Well, Nathan, obviously Hollywood fucking loves Hugh Jackman and musicals for some reason, so they'd go to him first. But like, I don't think they should. I don't think he's right.
He would be the main four. He would be the two guys, the two girls.
This is a good one.
Could you see Dan Radcliffe doing it?
No, you know what? I could see Dan Radcliffe as one of like the two Nathan Detroit lackeys. I could see him as one of those guys. Like either nicely or the other one. I think he'd be the other one, the one that's like
Can Timothy Chalamet sing?
probably.
Oh, actually no. Okay, so for Brando, get Taron Egerton.
Yeah. Okay, I'm down with that, but can I pick Nathan Detroit?
Yes.
I think after watching him, not just in obviously his last musical he did, but watching him in The Nice Guys with Russell Crowe, I think that what's his name, Ryan fucking Gosling would do a really great Detroit. I think he'd be sick.
After his performance in La La Land, how could you beat that? Like,
Mate, I think he'd be really good.
I think he would be actually really good. Yeah, I can definitely see that. So then, who would be their partners for Ryan and
Taron. Okay, so I'm thinking Sarah Brown first.
I can see Jen Lawrence maybe pulling it off.
No, I'd see Jen Lawrence as the other one, as Adelaide.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, we'll give Jen Lawrence that. We'll cast her in that.
Yeah.
And then some uptight Taron Egerton's partner.
I don't want to say Emma Stone, but like I've been thinking
Who's that chick in Bohemian Rhapsody? Like the girlfriend?
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
I was thinking Emma Stone, like, for that role. Like, that was the first one I initially thought of, and I was like, fuck, I don't want both the La La Land actors in it, but she'd be good.
Nah. What about Shane Woodley?
Maybe.
Have you seen her in Big Little Lies? Anything outside Divergent?
No, like,
Or-
I think she's a wonderful actress. It's more just like for a music. I'm just going,
I can sing.
can she?
Or what about Zoe Kravitz? That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, that'd be fun too. Oh, I want this role to be good. That's what I mean. Like, I want someone that's just fucking, like, real.
And also youngish. Like,
yeah.
oh, what about Alicia Vikander?
I could see it, but, you know.
Just to be someone has to be like really uptight, like kind of like.
What if, okay, well, hear me out.
Okay, what about Tobey Maguire in a wig?
No.
Okay.
Willem Dafoe. No. No, I'm thinking, what if you cast Zendaya as that role?
Oh, she's too young. I don't think it would work for
Really?
for Taron. Yeah, we'll leave that up to you, listeners. Maybe
Yeah. Let us know. That's been really.
when we can't do the work, the listeners can.
This that's been a real fun segment, Nathan. Thanks for that.
So then, the obvious question: should this movie be a musical? I mean, we know it's a musical. Obviously, you've been praising the musical a lot in this episode so far. So, like, as far as the musical goes, is there anything that you think it does better that you haven't mentioned yet, or like you want to see the future movie do that the musical does do?
Oh, I think I've said all I need to say on that.
All right. So instead, what I'll ask you: do you have any casting for that musical?
What do you mean?
So you just mentioned before that, you know, bloody Ewan McGregor and stuff did it. Do you have any more people who did the musical?
Oh, there's heaps. I could go through the cast list. Give me 2 seconds.
Because I have no idea who else did it, so I'd be interested to hear.
There are so many people
Who else
that
is in
fucking
there?
did this show.
Because like the musical sounds great the way you're pitching it, so like I'm keen to know who else was in these projects over the years.
So the Adelaide that was in the film was the original Miss Adelaide on Broadway. That's why she was chosen for the film.
Cool. What about like, the new musicals? What have they been doing with it? Who's in it?
So the most recent one in London was Ewan McGregor, and Nathan Lane was the Broadway adaptation before that. These actors, like, I know them, but I don't know if you would necessarily.
Oh, okay, because they're very Broadway people.
One that you might know is Oliver Platt, who has been in lots of movies as well. I can go through his filmography if you like. He was Nathan Detroit in the most recent Broadway adaptation.
There are no other film people that like do these that does Guys and Dolls?
No, I mean, like, Titus Burgess was also in the most recent Broadway adaptation.
What did he do?
He was Nicely Johnson. He's saying, "Sit down, you're rocking the boat."
Oh, good on him.
Yeah, and he's obviously a big Broadway guy as well.
Yeah.
You go through these, and there's just some like really well esteemed actors. I think this is a real story. There was a West End adaptation that was going to happen. I want to say in. Was it the 70s maybe? And Laurence Olivier, dead set, wanted to play Nathan Detroit. It was like one of his dreams was to play that role.
He wanted to haunt them.
Every time you say that, it makes me laugh. Fucking hell. But dead set. He also said that I think like one of the I can't remember who it was playing Nathan Detroit, but he said Laurence Olivier said that it was the greatest like on stage performance he'd ever seen. Was that actor playing Detroit? Yeah.
Good on him. Yeah, I'd like to see Laurence Olivier have a crack at it.
When you hear this shit though, it just makes you go like, wow, like this thing like holds up like on stage, and you can see like that it's really well revered. So it's just for you, it just must be bizarre. This whole thing, just going, why is this thing like? Why do people care?
Yeah, it was like when I first saw Les Mis. I mean, I had the exact same experience. The only thing I knew about Les Mis was the movie from 2012. And I'm like, why does everyone love this? And then after that, I saw the miniseries and the musical. I'm like, oh, I get it. That's why people love this.
Yeah, that movie's not great, is it?
It really isn't.
It's just kind of Tom Hooper. Wait, fuck, this is the Tom Hooper show. Like, why are we discussing his filmography?
We're just...
God
but you know what?
damn
the
it.
thing is with Tom Hooper as well, I love The King's Speech.
I know you do. And I haven't watched it in years, so it'd be interesting to watch it again with the hindsight.
Yeah, it's 2010, so it's going to be a while before we touch it.
But like, just like, it'd be interesting to see in hindsight if it still holds up. I think it would, because I think the performance of Colin Firth really carries that film.
Yeah. And Jeffrey Rush.
Yeah.
And Helen Bonham Carter.
Yeah, I think everyone's great in that movie. Guy Pearce as well is awesome in that movie.
Yeah. God, he's so good. I just think we've got two major Australian actors in that one.
Absolutely.
So Tom Hooper, like, he does make good... he does make good things. He just made two very shit things. Just stay away from musicals, Tom Hooper. That's all you need to do.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
And Brenton, I want to bring back another segment. What happens after this movie?
I have to think about this because, like, in the musical, No Questions Asked, those two couples stay together. You know what I mean? Like, but
I'm a little bit more flimsy about this because
but in
they
the
all
movie-
get married very quickly.
But in the movie, maybe not so much. So, what do you think happens?
Nah, I don't think bloody Brando and Salvation Chick last. Like,
Really?
yeah, I don't buy it. Like, sure, they've changed. Maybe they've gone through a thing, but like, I don't know if they're gonna stick together. Personally,
I'd like to think they would.
it's that same kind of Disney thing where I'm like, you people need to be going for a little bit longer before you tie the knot. You know?
Yeah, but it's no like Sleeping Beauty, you know what I mean? It's not like there's one fucking kiss and then like, you know, they're suddenly like all good. Actually, no, the worst offender is probably Snow White. Which one has which Disney like adaptation has the worst like prince interaction with the princess?
Oh, probably Cinderella, like easily.
But at least they spend the night together initially. Like, you know what I mean? And there's like
Yeah.
chemistry there.
Also, that movie like propagates a foot fetish.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like absolutely. But I'm saying like
Not to alienate our listeners who may have feet fetishes, but you know.
my understanding of Snow White is that like he literally just sees her in the casket and is like, I want that.
Actually, yeah, that's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. Also, it's the original one that kind of like made that happen in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Can you imagine just like
Self-sedition.
imagine coming across a clear coffin, right? Clear coffin. Surrounded by
Yeah.
like dwarves, and you're just like
Yeah.
there, and you're like, I wonder if I kissed that, if it would come back to life.
Jesus. The
Holy
logic
shit.
gap.
Holy
Oh.
shit. So that's what I mean. Cinderella, at least there's some interaction before the foot fetish begins.
Yeah, it's still not healthy, by the way. Like,
No,
I don't-
it's
it's
not.
funny as well.
I'm not supporting it. I'm just saying it's better than
No.
the fucking dead person.
It's funny as well because like Disney for years have been trying to remake Snow White.
Yeah.
Like, in the same way they did with like Cinderella and Beauty and Beast and all that kind of stuff. And they've had all, like, I think like 2013 was the first I heard of it. And they've had all these pictures, but no one can really crack the story because of how fucked up it is.
Well,
Like,
they did that Snow White and the Huntsman fucking thing, which I still haven't seen.
but that's not Disney.
I've
Disney
ne-
didn't make that.
I've never seen it though. Is it any good?
No. I mean, Chris Hemsworth's pretty funny just to see him try and do something else. But like, it was like before he became very funny as the funny guy.
Yeah.
And he tried it, but like, it just doesn't work in that movie. Fuck, it's a weird ass movie, Snow White and the Huntsman.
Didn't it get a sequel as well?
It did. It's
What the
no good.
fuck?
They're all no good.
So random.
It's just bland, generic 2010s Hollywood blockbuster that's made to be forgotten. But like, in that sense, like, I've heard so many Snow White pictures over the years just following movie news. I remember like Disney at one point was going to make like an all dwarves movie and like do like a dwarves kind of tale.
God.
Like, just don't do it. Like, don't touch it. I think the best thing they did with Snow White was when they kind of parodied it in the Amy Adams one.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, where she kind of goes through a similar kind of journey, but like she obviously has a lot more agency.
Well, I guess they kind of did that, and that's getting a sequel as well. So you know.
There are better things to be done.
Well, Nathan, I have a question for you.
Is it what stills this movie?
Fuck, you knew what I was going to say.
Ooh, it's blinding.
So, what stills this movie is a segment on the show where Nathan and myself, or we do it together, we pick a still, a single frame from the movie we're reviewing, and we put this still on our Instagram, on our YouTube. Links below. Check it out.
This is so fucking stupid. Oh,
Please.
I love it.
Please tell us more.
So fun fact. So as I was watching the movie, literally 1 minute in, I see this frame and I immediately screenshot it, text it to Brenton going, I found the fucking still. And like Brenton comes back being like, oh boy. So there's a scene right at the start where we're just running about New York, seeing all the background characters doing their daily shit. And there's a guy who walks past one of the storefronts and he's got this like overalls on, he's got this hat, he's got some glasses on, but hanging from his neck is this sign that reads, "I am blind." And it's like in the biggest font possible. And Brenton, do you think blind people would actually wear this thing?
Well, no, that's the point though, because it's then you find out that he's faking it, and he like makes a bet like on that woman's like bodyboard basically, and then he like pretends to be blinding him with his little mug to try and make money. But it's just ridiculous.
God.
It's so random. Like that whole first scene is just fucking crazy.
It is insane. Like every character is just giving like a 200%. You can almost see like the director being like more energy from like behind the camera.
It makes me think of Anchorman 2 when Will Ferrell's all like, "I am blind."
Oh, he just wears the same fucking sign. Like, oh, it'd be great.
Well, hey,
Hey,
let's look at this film's poster.
Brenton.
Yes,
Let's look at this film's poster.
but is it art?
It's fine.
I tell you what, I'd be fine with it, but I don't like the font. Like, I don't like the logo of Guys and Dolls.
Oh, actually, I don't have an issue with the logo. What's wrong with the logo?
Oh, it's just so shit.
It is very it's very like Microsoft Word art,
it's
isn't
crap.
it?
Like you have the stupid blue ribbon folding around, Guys and Dolls, which like the font itself is fine, but like the logo, you got like all these like drawn on stars and musical fucking notes everywhere, and it's just like, oh god, like why? Just give us
it's so stupid.
Just give us that text and it's fine. We don't need the banner behind it.
Do you actually want to know the worst thing about this poster?
What?
It's Frank Sinatra's facial expression.
It doesn't quite look like him, does it?
It kind of looks like he's watched something explode in the distance and he's like, oh.
He looks like he would not be out of place if he was starring as like Will Ferrell in Elf. You know what I mean? Like with that facial expression. Like
he really wouldn't. And it's so funny as well because like him and the two girls are all looking at the same thing, but Brando's kind of just looking at something else.
I know, right? It's like he's just something's caught his eye and he's like, huh?
He's like, oh, this is not a good poster, Brenton.
It's fine. It's like, what would you rather? Maybe some dice?
Oh no, don't remind me of Solo.
Dice and like the characters' faces on them?
Oh god, no. I think it again, put the best part of your movie on the poster. That's a general rule of thumb. So obviously it has to be Cuba.
I don't know.
What if one of the chicks are like ringing the bell and then the other three characters are kind of falling out of it like
What the fuck?
Actually no, better idea. Well, because the main song of this movie is "Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat." It should just be them on a boat. Just like going "Ooh," like they're rocking it.
Sure, Nathan, sure.
And that should be the tagline. They're rocking the boat.
Oh,
Guys and
Nathan,
Dolls.
let's pass the power to the people.
Instead, let's do title talk.
Oh, fuck. Guys, let's
I
make a
saved the
list.
show again.
Let's make a list every time Brenton does that. He's such a dickhead.
Behind the scenes listeners, because I sometimes miss it too because Brenton does it so well. We've had like 3 or 4 episodes where we just haven't done title talk because we'll just glide on over it. I'm like, but Brenton, we need to talk about Guys and Dolls.
It's ridiculous, Nathan. I'm so sorry.
Ooh, it's the title.
Guys and Dolls. Does it work for the movie?
No. I fucking hate the title, Brenton. I hate it with a passion. Guys and Dolls. Jesus, the most generic musical name in the world. Also, like, were there guys and dolls in this? Technically, yes. I mean, the 2 men and the 2 women are the guys and dolls.
Was there literally any, like, dolls, though? Like, I mean, like, creepy baby dolls or, like, you know...
Not that I can remember.
No, there was!
Maybe,
There was! Remember, like, at the start? I just remembered. At the start with all the crazy fucking characters going on. There's, like, the sideshow, pop-up sideshow, where, like, there's the little box on, like, the pram kind of stand thing, and they pull out that stupid weird doll on the string and it starts dancing, and then like the cops see them and they get away and they push up like this little bonnet thing on the pram, and then like the baby doll like sits in there like flapping in the wind. It's bizarre. So there you go. There was a doll.
I don't want that.
There was some guys.
Honestly, I don't think like the title reflects the theme of the movie or anything like that. I don't think it says anything about guys or dolls. So like instead, I would probably make it more about like the bet or something like that.
What would you call it?
To bet against a doll.
Okay.
That was the most resigned okay I've ever heard in my life. Jeez.
I don't mind Guys and Dolls as a title. I kind of like it.
Brenton doesn't mind anything, listeners.
Yeah, mate. I've got my standards are very low, as we find out every week on this show.
All Brenton has are Guys and Dolls. Let's
pass the power to the people, quick.
Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
So on the tomato meter, Guys and Dolls has a critical consensus of 91% with an audience score of 83%. So Nathan, we're in the minority here.
Boo. And it's made bank. It cost 5.5 to make and it made 20 mil. So like, you know, all the roses have been thrown.
Well, Nathan, TV Guide threw a rose and gave it a positive review when they said, a great play, but just a good movie. Yeah, I agree with you, TV Guide. Good on you guys. That's a great review.
Yeah, so made of what we said within an hour, so, you know.
Mate, why do people listen to this? Good God damn it.
I don't know. Why does anyone do anything? Dennis Schwartz from Oswald Movie Reviews, he didn't like it. He gave it a C+ and said too talky. Which is interesting because I thought I liked it more because of the actual attention put to dialogue.
Dennis wanted more music, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Gary T gives this 5 stars, and this is all in capital letters, so please forgive me and block your ears for 2 seconds. Wow! Wow! Such an enjoyable movie to watch with such a fantastic cast throughout this movie. It is such a fantastic movie to watch with such a brilliant cast throughout this movie. Warning, this movie contains strobe lighting effects throughout some scenes throughout this movie. It's got such a fantastic soundtrack throughout this movie. It is such a brilliant movie to watch with a brilliant cast throughout this. Thank you, Gary T. Thank you.
So eloquent. I do love he takes the time to mention strobe lighting effects because I don't think there were.
I don't think they were on.
No! What is he watching?
Maybe Gary T watched a different film. There's so many
Oh,
ellipses.
jeez. Maybe he was on something and thought he saw strobe lights.
There's so many ellipses like in that in that review as well.
Also, side note with ellipses, Brenton, I don't use them. I know, I'm just gonna throw rocks right now, but I don't know why people use them in the first place. Do you ever get text messages from people and they just have like 5 different ellipses in them?
Yeah, I usually send them. I love ellipses. Like I fucking love them.
Oh, fuck you, Brenton.
Oh man,
it's
like,
it's out of place.
But
like,
is it? I don't know. Like I understand where you're coming from, but like,
why are you like pausing and like thinking of the next sentence to say? Like, why are they in there?
It's because it kind of reflects how people talk. It makes sense in like dialogue and that kind of stuff. Like
where there's like an awkward pause and then it says like the next sentence.
No, it's kind of like when people like finish. For me, an ellipses kind of you use it, or you know when it's used, it's kind of like someone who's like continuing a train of thought, but they're not speaking. So they'll say like they'll vocalize a part of what they're saying, and like that's the statement, and then like it continues in their head. Does that make sense? Like as we do like when we talk. So like there's moments when like obviously
I don't know. In written, I don't buy it.
Our show is riddled with ellipses because of me mainly because I'll
we're a spoken medium.
Yeah, totally. But so it's a reflection in dialogue and how people talk. If you try to articulate something, fucking articulate it. You know what I mean? Like don't throw in ellipses like in your bloody like presentation or like in your thesis or whatever you're writing. Like don't do that.
No, don't. This is the real question for the listeners this week. Let us know if you use ellipses in your texting because this is what I really want to know. Fuck guys and dolls. This is it,
mate. There's been so many fucking tangents in this episode. Like everyone's getting their money's worth this week, even though this is a free podcast.
Christ. Kash D gave it 3 stars and wrote a touch over long, but only Luck Be a Lady being the real standout song in my opinion. But to see Brando and Sinatra on screen is wonderful at any time. I must say, the main reason I was hooked into this was hearing that you see Sinatra and Brando as a combo.
Yeah, and that they sat down and like shared a scene over some cheesecake.
Yeah, it was pretty hot.
It was pretty hot. Mary Helsing says, who knew that Don Corleone does Broadway in his spare time? I love that. That's great.
I did see some shades of Godfather in this, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, did you see him like stuffing his like cheeks full of fucking cotton buds or whatever?
Oh my god, that would be great. He's like, you disrespect me.
Luck be a lady tonight.
And lastly from Sawyer W, he gave it half a star. Brenton wrote, we watched this movie because my sister is doing a play for it. We all hated it and just went on our electronics. Doesn't that encapsulate everything?
And just know that you have to go watch that live when your sister performs in it now. Good luck.
I love that he said we all went on our electronics.
I know.
Like it wasn't just their phones. Like maybe one of them was just like like wiring up a radio or something.
And there was no ellipses used. He's very specific.
No, that comment gets 5 stars.
Well, Nathan, that was Guys and Dolls.
To be honest, it really wasn't. Barely guys and barely dolls, I should say.
Well, guys, if you want to find out more about dolls and Barbie dolls, don't listen to this podcast because next week we'll be reviewing another movie.
And the week after that, and the week after that. This will never end.
But we want to know now what you thought of Guys and Dolls. So let us know on our Instagram, on our YouTube, on our Twitter, on our electronics. Just let us know about what you thought of these films. And please, any suggestions for new films that we should review, we'd love to hear them. So please send those through as well.
Yeah, it's great that getting suggestions. Like the well's running dry. We got to talk about more movies, listeners. So tweet. So let us know.
But for now, Nathan, I think I'm just going to throw you a safety donut and hopefully reel you back into this boat.
Thank you. I've been trying to stay afloat for the past hour, so it's getting quite cold. Please send some help.
Doing well, treading some water. So here you go. plop.
Brenton, I didn't want an actual donut.
Oh, but it's jam filled. It's delicious.